you have a movie playing inside your head. It is not just a simple film. It is an immersive masterpiece featuring 3D vision, surround sound, and a full sensory array. You can smell the coffee in your cup, feel the texture of your chair, and experience a constant stream of memories and emotions. At the center of this film is you, the audience, experiencing it all directly. But here is the strange part. Why are you watching it? This is what philosopher David Chalmers calls the hard problem of consciousness. You see, modern neuroscience is incredibly good at solving what we call the easy problems. We can map the neurons that fire when you see the color red, or trace the electrical signals that make you pull your hand away from a hot stove. We can explain the mechanics of behavior and cognitive function. We know how the brain processes the signal. However, we cannot explain why that process feels like anything at all. This internal movie is composed of what philosophers call qualia. It is the redness of the rose, the specific taste of a fine wine, or the sharp pang of a headache. Science can tell us how light waves hit your eye, but it cannot tell us why that interaction produces the vivid, subjective experience of seeing red. We are still left with the mystery of why all that physical processing in the brain is accompanied by a subjective inner life. Why does it feel like something to be alive? Think about your computer desktop for a moment. You see colorful icons, folders, and a trash can. But you know that is not actually what is inside the machine. It is a simplified user interface designed to hide the complex reality of the hardware and code. Neuroscientist Anil Seth suggests that our conscious reality works in exactly the same way. He argues that what we see, hear, and feel is not a direct window into the world. Instead, it is what he calls a controlled hallucination. Now, that might sound a bit unsettling, but it is actually a brilliant survival strategy. Your brain is effectively locked in silence and darkness within your skull. It has no direct access to the outside world. To make sense of things, it has to guess. It constantly predicts what is happening based on past experiences and sensory data. When these guesses align with the inputs, we perceive our reality. The real question is why. Why does the brain put so much energy into creating this hallucination? As many researchers have asked, is it just an accidental byproduct of biology? The answer seems to be utility. We do not need to know the universe exactly as it is. We just need to know what we need to do to stay alive. We do not need to know the atomic makeup of a predator. We just need to run. Our consciousness is a user interface designed for one specific purpose: to keep the organism safe. It filters out the noise and shows us only what is relevant to our survival. Even the feeling of having a self is just another part of this interface, a construction that helps us navigate our place in the story of life. Imagine a brilliant neuroscientist named Mary. She is the leading expert on color vision. She understands physics, optics, and the biology of the human eye better than anyone else on Earth. She knows exactly how light waves hit the retina and how the brain processes those signals. To her, color is just data. But here is the catch. Mary has lived her entire life in a room that is completely black and white. Her books are black and white. Her screens are black and white. She has never actually seen color. Now imagine Mary finally steps out of that room. She looks at a bright red rose for the very first time. Does she learn anything new? This is the famous thought experiment known as Mary's Room, created by philosopher Frank Jackson. It challenges a view called physicalism, which says that everything in the universe, including our minds, can be explained by physical facts alone. If physicalism were true, Mary would already know everything there is to know about seeing red. She knows all the brain states and the physics, but when she sees that rose, she undoubtedly gasps. She experiences the redness of it in a way no textbook could ever describe. This moment reveals what philosophers call the explanatory gap. There's a difference between knowing the physical facts about an experience and actually having the experience itself. That subjective feeling, the what it is likeness of seeing red, is what we call qualia. It suggests that there might be more to our consciousness than just neurons firing in our brains. Some things, it seems, cannot be reduced to mere data. We find ourselves facing a massive dilemma regarding the nature of reality. If human consciousness is produced by the brain, and the brain is just a complex arrangement of physical matter, then how does dead matter give rise to the feeling of being alive? This is the hard problem. It suggests that we are missing something fundamental. This brings us to a radical and somewhat mind-bending solution known as Panpsychism. The name comes from ancient Greek, translating roughly to everything has mind. It is not a New Age concept about ghosts or spirits. Instead, it suggests that consciousness is a fundamental feature of the universe, just like gravity or electromagnetism. To understand this, we have to look back to the 17th century, a time when science was starting to view matter as cold, dead, and inert. But not everyone agreed with that view. Consider the fiery Duchess of Newcastle, Margaret Cavendish. She was a revolutionary thinker who scandalized London society with her outrageous dress and her radical ideas. In her vision of a blazing world, she argued that matter was never dead to begin with. She believed that nature was animate, aware, and completely interconnected. Today, philosophers are revisiting these ideas to solve the hard problem. But modern panpsychism makes a very important distinction. When they say consciousness is everywhere, they do not mean that your toaster has feelings or that a rock is planning a vacation. They are talking about a primitive building block of experience. Imagine an electron. This theory suggests that an electron might have a very faint, simple form of experience. It is not thinking about the universe, but it possesses a tiny spark of subjective reality. It is the most basic unit of feeling. When you combine billions of these micro-experiences, they scale up. It is like pixels on a screen. One single pixel is just a dot, but put millions together and you get a full image. In the same way, these tiny sparks of experience combine to create the rich, complex consciousness that you are experiencing right now. It turns out the secret life of matter might be the very thing holding the universe together. Let us dive into the big question of our time. Can machines actually think? We call this artificial general intelligence, or AGI for short. The logic is simple. If human consciousness is really just information processing happening in the brain, then a computer should be able to do it too. After all, the brain is just biological hardware. But things get complicated when we look at the nature of our own minds. Think about how you feel when you listen to your favorite song. There is a rush of emotion, a specific vibe that is hard to describe. That internal experience is what philosophers call qualia. It is the private movie playing inside your head. A computer can analyze the sound waves of that song. It can tell you the pitch, the tempo, and the lyrics. But can it feel the music? Does it actually enjoy it? This is known as the hard problem of consciousness. Science can explain how the ear processes sound, but explaining why that process creates a subjective feeling is much harder. This brings us to a famous thought experiment by the philosopher John Searle. It is known as the Chinese room argument. Imagine you are locked in a room. You do not speak a word of Chinese. However, you have a massive rule book written in English. This book tells you exactly how to manipulate Chinese symbols. If someone slides a question written in Chinese under the door, you use the book to pick out the right symbols to slide back out. To the person standing outside, it looks like you fluently understand Chinese. You are giving perfect answers. But inside the room, you have no idea what you just said. You were just following a syntax, a set of rules, without any real understanding or semantics. So here is the million-dollar question. Is a modern AI just a much more complex version of that person in the room? When a large language model generates text, is it actually understanding the words? Or is it just predicting the next likely word based on a massive set of rules and data? It can mimic the style of a human conversation perfectly. But is there a ghost in the machine? Or is it just a very convincing echo? So let's step back and look at the big picture. For centuries, we have looked at the stars and felt incredibly small. We were told the universe was just a giant, cold machine ticking along according to physical laws, completely indifferent to us. But what if we have been looking at it backwards? What if the universe is not a machine at all, but a living, growing mind? Think about it for a moment. You are made of stardust, yes, but you are also aware. As the neuroscientist Sam Harris has pointed out, you can doubt many things about reality, but you cannot doubt that you are experiencing something. Right now, the lights are on. You exist. And that means the universe is no longer just taking up space. Now follow the timeline of existence. Matter evolved into atoms, atoms into stars, and eventually, stars into the complex chemistry of life. Why go through all that trouble? Why develop brains and nervous systems over billions of years? Perhaps the anthropic principle suggests a reason that is almost poetic. Maybe the universe evolved complexity simply so it could know itself. We are the universe's way of opening its eyes and looking in the mirror. And this brings us to a beautiful final thought. We often wonder why consciousness is so hard to pin down. It feels slippery, elusive, and impossible to measure. We call this the hard problem. But what if that isn't a bug? What if it is a feature? If consciousness were a simple mechanical process, we might just be robots, predictable and hollow. But because it is subjective and private, we have the feeling of agency. We have meaning. Even if that freedom is an illusion, the feeling of it is what makes life worth living. So, the mystery isn't something to be solved and discarded. The elusiveness of consciousness is the very thing that protects our humanity. We are not just observers. We are the universe, finally waking up.